The Karun Dominion was feared across the galaxy. No world resisted for long. Entire star systems fell before their massive fleets. Planets were stripped of their resources, cities burned, and civilizations crushed. The Dominion moved from one system to another with ease, confident in their ability to dominate anything in their path. Their ships were fast, powerful, and numerous. Commanders believed that nothing could stop them. Commander Ralvik stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Vortex. The stars stretched out beyond the transparent hull, a calm backdrop to the coming storm of destruction. Ralvik's dark eyes scanned the fleet reports. They were about to conquer the planet Doral, a small world with only minor defenses. It should be easy. His officers nodded and reported readiness. Everything had gone according to plan until long-range sensors picked up an unusual signal in the sector. A single ship, small compared to the Dominion fleet, drifted near a hyperspace corridor. The ship was human. Or at least, the Dominion believed it was. Humans were thought to be weak and nearly extinct, scattered across hidden pockets of space. The Dominion had never taken them seriously. The fleet assumed this lone ship would flee, surrender, or be destroyed easily. Yet, it did nothing. It remained still, almost as if it was waiting. On the human warship, Captain Han Jisoo observed the approaching armada. Her hands moved over the control panels with calm precision. She did not panic. Behind her, Executive Officer Park Yuna and Tactical Officer Lee Seojin studied the Dominion fleet's movements. Their small ship was not meant to fight a full fleet, but humans had never relied solely on numbers. They relied on strategy, courage, and timing. Han Jisoo activated the communication channel. This is the human warship Dayan. You are entering restricted space. Identify yourself. Her voice was steady, carrying no fear. From the Dominion flagship, Commander Ralvik's voice boomed through the interstellar frequency. This is Commander Ralvik of the Karun Dominion. You are a trespasser. Surrender immediately or face destruction. There was silence. The human ship did not respond further. Ralvik frowned. A fleet of this size, faced with a single human ship, would normally see instant submission. Yet this ship moved not an inch, standing firm in the corridor. Fire a warning shot, Ralvik ordered. The energy beam cut across the void and hit the human vessel. The impact was absorbed by the shields, and the ship shuddered but did not falter. The Dominion officers exchanged puzzled glances. No other species could withstand even a single blast from their weapons, but this small human ship had taken it without significant damage. On the Dayan, Han Jisoo glanced at the readouts. Shields are holding. Prepare for evasive maneuvers only if necessary. Maintain position. Park Yuna nodded. They will not leave. They think they can scare us by showing numbers. Lee Seojin added, They have no idea what we are capable of. Let them learn slowly. The Dominion fleet launched multiple attacks. Swarms of fighters and massive warships fired volleys of energy at the Dayan. Explosions lit up the darkness of space, but the human ship responded with precision strikes. Not one shot was wasted. In moments, multiple enemy vessels were crippled, some destroyed entirely. It was not just defense. It was calculated retaliation. The Dominion had never seen tactics like this. Commander Ralvik's frustration grew. Concentrate all fire on that vessel. Destroy it before it slows our advance. The human crew moved with practiced coordination. Lee Seojin rerouted power from damaged sections, while Park Yuna adjusted shields to absorb the incoming strikes. Han Jisoo analyzed the fleet's formations, predicting movements before they happened. They moved as one, their ship responding as though it were alive. For the first time, the Dominion officers began to doubt their own doctrine. How could a single ship, with so few resources, stop an entire fleet that had conquered dozens of worlds without opposition. Even the Karun soldiers, bred and trained for war, whispered among themselves in disbelief. They had never encountered resistance like this. Ralvik's advisors urged him to retreat, to call for reinforcements, but he would not. Retreat was not an option for a commander of the Dominion. He demanded full-scale attack, hoping sheer firepower would finally break the humans. The fleet advanced again, beams of energy carving paths through the void. Explosions surrounded the Dayan, yet it moved as if guided by intuition rather than programming. Inside the human ship, the crew worked tirelessly. Each member knew their role, each action precise. They were not reckless, but they were relentless. Humans had faced extinction before. Every human ship carried the weight of survival, the lessons of ancestors who fought through unimaginable odds. This was not a gamble. It was purpose. The Dominion fleet's attacks began to have an effect. Minor damage appeared on the Dayan, and fires broke out in several compartments. Yet Han Jisu did not falter. Continue, but keep us in position. Let them feel the cost of attacking humanity. As the battle raged, Dominion intelligence tried to decode human behavior. Every strike was strategic, every maneuver calculated. Humans had adapted to fight against impossible odds. Planets fell because their enemies underestimated them. Now, in the cold silence of space, the same lesson was being repeated. The initial attack wave ended, but the human ship remained. It was not destroyed, it did not retreat, and it did not surrender. The Dominion fleet had never experienced this. Ralvik realized that their usual methods would not work here. This was not a normal species, not one that relied solely on fear and overwhelming power. On the Dayan, Han Jisu allowed herself a small nod of satisfaction. The first wave was survived. It was only the beginning. Park Yuna looked at the sensors. They think they can push us aside. Let them try. Lee Seojin checked the ship's status. Damage is minimal. They are learning that humans do not break easily. Ralvik's face darkened. He realized that this single ship was more than a simple obstacle. It was a message, a challenge. And for the first time in his career, he feared the consequences of underestimating humans. Every plan, every calculation, seemed insufficient against the determination of a single human vessel. The human warship Dion floated silently, holding the corridor, a single point of resistance against the might of the Karun Dominion. Stars shimmered beyond the hull, but no beauty could compare to the power of will that radiated from the small human crew. They were not numerous, they were not large, but they were unyielding. The Dominion would soon learn that conquering humans was far more difficult than conquering worlds. And this was only the beginning of a battle that would echo across the galaxy. The Dominion fleet regrouped after the initial failure. Commander Ralvik paced the bridge, his hands clenched. Every officer around him was tense. They had never faced such stubborn resistance. Normally, an entire fleet would submit to the Dominion's might after seeing even a small ship destroyed. But the human warship, the Dayan, had not only survived, they had struck back with precision, crippling multiple vessels in moments. Ralvik leaned over the star maps, plotting new strategies. They are few, yet they hold the corridor. We need a new approach. Focus on their weapon systems first, he said. His voice was cold and sharp, filled with authority and a rare note of concern. He knew their usual methods would not work here. Humans were not ordinary opponents. On the Dayan, Captain Han Jisu studied the Dominion fleet calmly. Her eyes scanned the bridge's holographic displays. Every movement of the enemy ships was being tracked, analyzed, and anticipated. Executive Officer Park Yuna tapped the screen, pointing out weak points in the fleet formations. They are regrouping. Another wave is coming, she said. Tactical Officer Li Xiujing added, "We need to be ready for anything. They will try different angles. Humans are not predictable, but neither are they reckless." Han Jisu nodded. "We will hold. Focus on defense first, precision second. Let them make the mistakes." The crew of the Dayan worked as one unit. Each command was clear, each action swift. They were not just fighting for survival, they were sending a message. Humans could not be intimidated by numbers alone. That the Dominion launched their next attack. This time, they used coordinated strikes designed to overwhelm the human ship. Massive energy beams, rapid-fire projectiles, and swarms of smaller fighters were directed toward the Dayan. Explosions lit up space around the ship, shaking it violently. The crew felt the vibrations, but did not panic. Shields held steady. Automated countermeasures deflected the smaller attacks, while manual control handled the larger threats. Han Jisu gave calm orders. Divert power to shields on the port side. Prepare for energy redistribution to forward weapons. Maintain our position. Park Yuna and Li Xiujing moved quickly, rerouting energy and firing precise counterstrikes. The Dominion ships were stunned. Their massive fleets, trained to crush any opposition, were being systematically weakened by a single human vessel. Some ships were damaged enough to retreat temporarily. The Dominion officers stared in disbelief at the reports flooding in. Ralvik's frustration grew. Concentrate all fire on that ship. It cannot continue to survive. But the Dayan adapted. Humans were not only reactive, they were creative under pressure. Li Xiujin adjusted the ship's trajectory subtly, making it harder for enemy targeting systems to predict their movements. Park Yuna calculated the perfect timing for counterattacks, ensuring that each strike hit critical systems without unnecessary waste. Every move was deliberate, every decision measured. As the battle continued, Dominion sensors intercepted fragments of human history. The crew of the Dayan had uploaded strategic doctrines from old Earth archives. Records of past wars, near-extinction events, and lessons of survival spread through Dominion systems. Commanders whispered to one another, realizing that humans had endured annihilation before. The small ship was more than a fighter. It represented an entire species trained to survive against overwhelming odds. Inside the Dayan, the crew felt the weight of their history. Han Jisu spoke quietly to Park Yuna and Li Xiujin. "This is why we were built to endure. Not to conquer, but to protect, to survive. Every action counts. We fight smart, not reckless." Outside, the Dominion fleet continued its relentless attacks. They adjusted formations, brought in more ships, and tried to encircle the human vessel. But every attempt was met with precision strikes that crippled their movements. One by one, ships were forced to retreat or risk destruction. The Dominion had underestimated the human spirit, and it was proving to be their undoing. Ralvik's face darkened as he reviewed damage reports. "This is unacceptable. How can one ship hold against an entire fleet? Double the firepower. Target the bridge. Do not stop until it is destroyed." Han Jisu remained calm. "They believe they can intimidate us with sheer force. They do not understand that humans are not afraid to stand when they have no choice but to hold." She gave orders to reroute power to reinforced sections of the ship, anticipating direct hits on the bridge. Li Xiujin monitored incoming fire, redirecting energy and calculating angles to minimize damage. As the Dominion continued, some of their ships began to fall behind, damaged by precise human counterattacks. Even the strongest vessels could not escape the efficiency of the human crew. The battle was not only a fight for survival, but a demonstration of human resilience and tactical superiority. The Dahan systems held, and the human crew began to push back strategically. Small, targeted strikes began to disable weapons on Dominion ships, without destroying the vessels entirely. The humans were sending a message. They were not seeking destruction for its own sake, but to show that domination would not succeed without cost. Ralvik's frustration became anger. How can this be happening? We are supposed to be unstoppable. We have conquered entire star systems. How can a single ship continue to defy us? On the human ship, Han Jisoo noticed the cracks in the Dominion's coordination. They were reacting, not controlling. The Daeon used every advantage, exploiting weaknesses in the fleet's formation. Every strike from the human ship carried a lesson, showing the Dominion that sheer numbers were not enough. Park, Yuna smiled faintly. They are learning the hard way that humans do not bow easily. One ship can make them rethink everything. Lee Seojin added, "It is not luck. It is strategy, adaptation, and determination. That is why we survive where others fail." The Dominion fleet's attacks slowed as commanders debated strategies. Doubt had entered their minds. A single ship had held them off for hours, causing losses and damaging their morale. They realized that underestimating humans was a mistake they would pay for. Commander Ralvik gritted his teeth. He had faced resistance before, but never anything like this. The human warship was not just a threat, it was a revelation. On the Dahan, Han Jisoo allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The first real test had been survived. The fleet could regroup, plan, and attack again, but the humans had already shown their strength. The corridor remained blocked. The Dominion had learned, in a few short hours, that humans were not conquered by fear or force alone. The battle continued into the cold emptiness of space. Explosions flared, shields glowed, and ships moved with precision. But through it all, the Daehan remained in position. It had survived. It had fought back. And it had shown that humans, even alone, could change the course of an entire battle. Commander Ralvik's pride had been shaken, and he knew that more would come. Yet for the first time, he wondered if even the Dominion could withstand the determination of a single human warship. The Dominion fleet had been forced to pause. Their attacks had been repelled by a single human warship, the Daeon. Commander Ralvik's frustration was now tinged with fear. No other species had ever resisted for so long. The Dominion scouts relayed fragments of information they had gathered from the human ship. Data streams contained records of old Earth wars, near-extinction events, and humanity's long history of survival against impossible odds. The Dominion officers listened with growing disbelief. Humans were not simply a species, they were a lesson in endurance. On the Daeon, Captain Han Jisoo studied the Dominion fleet through her viewing screens. She could see the confusion in the enemy's formations, the hesitation in their movements. Humans had always learned from history. Every battle, every failure, had left lessons for the next generation. This was why a single human ship could face an entire fleet with confidence. The crew had been trained not only in tactics but in patience, courage, and adaptability. Executive Officer Park Yuna tapped a console. "They are studying us. I think they are beginning to understand that humans are not weak, not easily intimidated." Lee Seojin, monitoring incoming signals, nodded. "They will try new strategies, but we are ready. Humans have survived worse situations than this. We adapt, we learn, we endure." Ralvik summoned his top officers. "Prepare a new attack. We must find a way to break this human ship. Their technology, their tactics, it is unlike anything we have seen. If we fail, the fleet's reputation will suffer." The Dominion launched the next wave of attacks. This time, they combined raw firepower with clever maneuvers designed to surround the Daeon. Explosions tore across space as beams of energy collided with the human ship's shields. Yet for every strike the Dominion launched, the humans responded with calculated countermeasures. Their movements were precise, their timing perfect. Each attack disabled weapons or engines on Dominion ships without unnecessary destruction. They were teaching their enemies a harsh lesson. Humans could not be crushed by numbers alone. Inside the Dayan, the crew worked like a single organism. Han Jisoo gave orders with calm authority. Divert power to the starboard shields. Prepare counterstrikes on the forward attackers. Keep our position. Let them feel the cost of underestimating us. Park Yuna adjusted the ship's energy flows, ensuring that the shields held despite multiple hits. Lee Seo-jin calculated the angles of return fire, targeting critical systems on the Dominion vessels. Every action was deliberate, efficient, and precise. The Dominion fleet began to suffer real losses. Ships were damaged, some destroyed entirely. Officers whispered to one another. They had faced worlds, fleets, and civilizations, but never a single ship that could withstand their combined power. They realized that humans had survived extinction events, massive wars, and total isolation. The Dayan represented a species that did not bow to fear or force. Ralvik's voice was harsh over the command channel. Do not underestimate them. Focus all fire on the forward shields of that vessel. We will not fail. The humans anticipated many of the attacks. Lee Seo-jin adjusted shields in fractions of a second, redirecting energy to critical points. Park Yuna recalibrated weapons to strike only the vulnerable sections of Dominion ships, weakening them without waste. Han Jisoo's eyes scanned the battlefield, predicting moves before they happened. The crew moved as if guided by instinct honed through generations. In the midst of battle, Ralvik received new intelligence reports. Sensors detected that humans had hidden systems across multiple locations. Reinforcements were not far. The Dominion fleet realized that the Dayan was not alone. This single ship was a spearhead, anchored in history, with support waiting in the wings. Ralvik's frustration turned to alarm. He had expected to destroy a single ship. Instead, he was facing a species prepared for any challenge. The Dominion attempted a coordinated strike, a full frontal assault. Explosions ripped through space, shaking the human ship violently. Fires erupted in the Dayan's hull, and casualties mounted. Yet Han Jisoo remained calm. Focus on control, not panic. Use the damage to our advantage. We have survived worse. Park Yuna managed the shields, absorbing impacts and maintaining stability. Lee Seo-jin rerouted power to maintain weapons efficiency and structural integrity. They had faced disasters before and had learned to survive when others would have fled. Humans were not reckless, they were resilient. Each decision was a lesson in survival and strategy. As the battle raged, Dominion officers began to fear the humans themselves, not just the ship. They studied the crew, realizing that humans fought differently. They adapted instantly, anticipated attacks, and responded with precision. The Dominion had conquered entire civilizations without resistance. Yet here, they faced a species that could not be intimidated or easily destroyed. Han Jisoo allowed a small smile. The enemy was learning, slowly and painfully. They would remember this day, the first real encounter with humans, and it would change the way they approached the galaxy. The Dayan held the corridor, a single point of defiance that spoke volumes. Humans did not need to attack recklessly to win. They only needed to survive and teach a lesson. Ralvik, watching the reports, realized that his fleet's morale was waning. Officers whispered doubts, pilots hesitated, and ships fell behind. Humans were not only surviving, they were reshaping the battle. The Dominion had believed that fear was enough to control others. They now understood that some species were not afraid to stand, even alone. Against overwhelming power. In the Dayan, the crew prepared for the next wave. Han Jisoo spoke quietly to her team. They will try again. We must hold. Humans survive when others fail. Remember the lessons of history. Stand firm, fight smart, and endure. The Dominion launched another attack, yet the outcome was becoming clear. Their strategies were failing. They had underestimated human resilience, human adaptability, and human determination. Every assault was met with precise defense and calculated retaliation. The single human warship continued to hold the corridor, a symbol of strength against the mightiest fleet in the galaxy. Ralvik's frustration grew into disbelief. He had expected easy victories, the collapse of resistance, and quick subjugation. Instead, he was forced to reconsider everything he had learned. The Dian was teaching the Dominion that humanity could not be conquered through fear, numbers, or force. They had learned that humans survived, adapted, and endured often against impossible odds. The battle paused temporarily as both sides assessed damage. Dominion commanders consulted nervously. They had lost ships, resources, and confidence. The humans remained steadfast, undamaged in morale, if not entirely unscathed in body. Han Jisu observed the enemy, calm and collected. The pause was brief, but it allowed the humans to prepare for the next stage. They had not only survived, they had proven a point. The Dominion fleet had underestimated humans, and the lesson was being taught in the most brutal way. One ship, one determined crew, could challenge a fleet and force it to reconsider its tactics, its assumptions, and its understanding of the galaxy. Across the stars, the message was clear. Humans were not weak. They did not bow, and they could endure. The Dian remained in position, a silent guardian, ready to face whatever came next. The Dominion fleet regrouped once more. Commander Ralvik was growing desperate. His officers were tense, their confidence shaken by a single human warship. The Dian had withstood multiple waves of attacks and continued to hold the hyperspace corridor. Losses were mounting, and the Dominion had never faced such a challenge. On the Dian, Captain Han Jisu stood calmly at her command panel. The crew moved with smooth precision, aware of every threat and every weakness. Executive Officer Park Yuna monitored the shields, ensuring that each section absorbed damage efficiently. Tactical Officer Lee Seo-jin calculated trajectories for counterattacks, ready to disable enemy ships without wasting resources. Every move was deliberate, every decision focused on survival and efficiency. Ralvik ordered a massive coordinated strike, combining all firepower in a single assault. Beams of energy and explosive projectiles surged toward the Dian. Explosions illuminated the darkness of space, and the ship shuddered under the force. Fires broke out in several compartments, and alarms blared across the bridge. Yet Han Jisu remained calm. Divert power to forward shields. Prepare countermeasures for incoming volleys. Maintain our position, she instructed. Her voice was steady, filled with quiet authority. The crew worked tirelessly, rerouting power, reinforcing shields, and targeting weak points on the enemy vessels. The Dominion fleet continued to press, but the human crew adapted instantly. Lee Seo-jin rerouted energy to maintain weapon efficiency, while Park Yuna stabilized damaged systems. They moved with precision, exploiting every mistake the Dominion made. Ships that were meant to be overwhelming in number found themselves crippled by calculated strikes. For the first time, the Dominion realized that raw strength could be overcome by intelligence, skill, and courage. Ralvik's frustration became anger. Increase firepower. Target the command bridge. We cannot allow a single ship to defy the Dominion. Han Jisu watched the fleet's movements carefully. They are predictable if we stay calm. Use their own momentum against them. Remember, humans survive by adapting, not by rushing. She directed the crew to prepare a tactical maneuver, a gravity-locking field that could temporarily immobilize multiple Dominion ships. This device was risky, but the crew had trained for such moments. It required precise timing and coordination. The field activated, and instantly several Dominion ships were trapped, unable to move. Explosions tore through those that were closest, and the trapped vessels suffered significant damage. Panic spread among the Dominion commanders. They had underestimated humans once again. One ship had managed to stop many of their strongest vessels, demonstrating that humans were not to be taken lightly. Ralvek barked orders, but confusion reigned. His fleet was losing structure, and morale was dropping. Officers whispered to one another, realizing the humans were not only strong, they were unbreakable in spirit. The Dayan had not just survived. It had turned the tide in small but significant ways. The crew of the Dayan worked with synchronized precision. Han Jisoo maintained focus on the long-term strategy. Keep the corridor clear. Protect the ship at all costs. Every move counts. Park Yuna and Lee Seojin adjusted shields and weapons, compensating for damage and anticipating new attacks. The crew was exhausted, but they did not falter. Human determination and discipline kept the ship operational against overwhelming odds. As the Dominion regrouped, reports arrived of additional human task groups emerging from hidden locations in folded space. The Dayan had been the anchor, the signal for reinforcements to arrive. Ralvik's eyes widened in disbelief. He had assumed this was a lone ship, an isolated defense. Now he realized the humans had a network, a strategy far beyond what he had anticipated. The Dominion had underestimated the entirety of humanity. Han Jisoo observed the fleet, calculating the new dynamics. They will attempt another attack, but our position is stronger now. Reinforcements will coordinate with us. Humanity has survived against worse threats. We will endure this one as well. The Dominion launched yet another assault, even more aggressive than before. Explosions rocked the Dayan, fires raged, and casualties mounted. Yet the ship held, absorbing hits, counterattacking, and holding the corridor. The human crew demonstrated adaptability, courage, and intelligence that left Dominion officers in awe. Ralvek, watching the reports, realized that their fleet had reached a critical point. Ships were damaged, morale was low, and confidence had been shattered. Humans were not only surviving, they were dominating in a way that the Dominion had never experienced. One ship had altered the outcome of a battle that should have been an easy victory. Han Jisoo gave orders calmly. Do not waste energy on panic. Every strike counts. Use every advantage. Remember, humans survive when others fail. The Dominion fleet began to retreat slowly, realizing the futility of further direct assaults. The Dayan had shown them that even the mightiest fleet could be challenged by a single determined crew. Ships broke formation, some were destroyed, and the remaining fled the corridor. Their pride and reputation shattered. On the Dayan, the crew allowed themselves a brief moment of relief. The ship had held the line. The corridor remained blocked, and the Dominion fleet had been weakened. Han Jisoo surveyed her crew. We have held, but the battle is not over. Humanity endures, and we will continue to stand in the face of any threat. Park Yuna smiled faintly. They will remember this day. Humans are not to be underestimated. Lee Seojin added, it is not luck. It is training, determination, and the will to survive. We have proven that even one ship can make a difference. The Dominion had learned a harsh lesson. Humans were not conquered by fear or force. They adapted, endured, and turned even impossible odds into survival. The Dayan had held the line, and in doing so, had reshaped the Dominion's understanding of what it meant to face humanity. Across the galaxy, the message spread. Humans could not be defeated easily, and one ship could change the course of entire fleets. The Dominion fleet was shattered. Ships limped away, damaged and demoralized. Commander Ralvik had never faced such defeat, and the humiliation weighed heavily on him. His officers were silent, unwilling to voice the truth They had underestimated humanity. Across the fleet, survivors carried recordings of the battle, tales of a single human warship that had stopped a vast armada. The legend of the Dian was being written, and the galaxy would remember it. On the human warship, Captain Han Jisu stood at the command console, calm but watchful. Executive Officer Park Yuna and Tactical Officer Lee Seo-jin worked diligently, repairing systems and assessing damage. The Dayan had endured countless attacks, yet it remained in one piece, a testament to human engineering, strategy, and determination. Han Jisu addressed her crew quietly. "We have held the line. The Dominion will think twice before attacking humanity again. But this is only the beginning. Our presence here is a warning. Humanity does not seek conquest, but we will not be ignored or underestimated." Park Yuna nodded, eyes scanning the starfield for remaining threats. "They have fled for now, but other fleets will come. They will remember what they saw today. One human ship and entire forces were crippled." Lee Seo-jin added, "We have survived, but we must remain vigilant. The galaxy now knows that humans endure, adapt, and fight when necessary. Our story will reach every system." The Dominion fleet's retreat was slow and painful. Ships were damaged, engines struggling, and morale shattered. Survivors sent messages back to their home systems, describing the encounter. Commander Ralvik was forced to admit that humans were unlike any species they had conquered. Humans did not yield, even in the face of overwhelming odds. They learned, adapted, and endured, and their willingness to stand firm had cost the Dominion dearly. On the Dayan, repairs continued, but the atmosphere was quiet, reflective. Han Jisu walked among her crew, speaking with each member, acknowledging their skill, courage, and resilience. She knew that victories were never only about strength. They were about unity, strategy, and willpower. Every system we fight for must understand one thing. Han Jisu said, speaking to the bridge crew, "Humans do not seek empires. We do not conquer for pleasure or greed. But when threatened, we will stand. When pushed, we will fight. And when one of our own is in the way, we do not move aside." Park Yuna smiled faintly. "We have given them a lesson they will never forget. One ship has changed the balance of this region. They will reconsider every action against humanity in the future." Lee Seo-jin nodded. "And they will spread the story. The galaxy will know that humans are not weak, not fragile, and not easily defeated. We endure because we must. We survive because we refuse to break." The Dayan drifted through space, quietly and confidently, a sentinel that had stopped the mightiest fleet of the Caron Dominion. Across countless systems, the message spread. Humans were not to be underestimated. Planets that might have been targets now paused, reconsidered, and reevaluated the strength of a species that had endured wars, extinction threats, and isolation. Humans were not conquerors, but they were defenders, unyielding in the face of any threat. Commander Ralvik, back on his flagship, watched the Dayan disappear into the stars. He knew that his fleet would never forget this encounter. Lessons had been learned the hard way. Humans were not to be trifled with, not to be judged by numbers or reputation alone. A single human warship had proven that courage, strategy, and endurance could overcome overwhelming force. Han Jisu ordered the ship to continue its patrol, keeping watch over key hyperspace corridors. Humanity did not seek war, but it would not turn away from it when necessary. Every star system, every fleet, every species would come to understand that humans were not to be underestimated. The crew of the Dawn worked quietly, repairing damage, restoring systems, and preparing for future challenges. They had survived the impossible and shown the galaxy the strength of humanity. Stories would be told, warnings would be heeded, and the Dominion had learned that conquering humans was not a simple matter. Every encounter, every battle, would remind the galaxy of one truth. Humans do not surrender, humans endure. And humans will stand in the way of those who seek to dominate thought as the stars stretched endlessly around them. Han Jisu gazed into the void. We do not seek empires, but we will stand. We do not conquer for pleasure, but we will not allow others to take what they wish. This is the human way. The Dion moved steadily through space, a lone ship with a powerful message. The galaxy had learned it well. When humans are involved, even a single warship can change the outcome of entire fleets, alter strategies, and teach lessons that will echo for generations. Humanity had shown its strength, and the story of the Dayan would be remembered across the stars.